What's up, guys? Welcome to the Resars podcast with daily refinement in tech and sports. Today, we have a super exciting episode. We're going to talk about me going from 0 active listings to 10,000 active listings in about 4 years and talking about the different things that worked for me, that didn't work for me, different things I learned along the way. And hopefully, this will be full of lessons for you guys. We have a private podcast feed on Patreon. If you want to check that out, you can support it for $5 a month, or for $35, you can join our new Facebook group, which has a ton of mentorship in there. And we have weekly coaching. That's the best deal in town. Weekly coaching and a Facebook group for $35 a month. So join us in there. But let's get straight into the topic. So, Tech, you've been at 10,000 listings for a while now. When I first started, you were already there.
Yeah, when I first met you was about 4 years ago or so. Somehow you found me or whatever. And I remember I woke up the next morning and instead of having notifications, like my whole notifications was just follows. It was the most bananas things I've ever seen in my life. I had to message somebody who followed me and ask them what happened. And they said this guy on YouTube was talking about how you have 10,000 listings and that's the only store he's seen at that size. So then we started talking. I met you, but yeah, about 4 years ago was when I just got to 10,000 listings. I've since doubled that and then two and a half times that. So right now I'm sitting at 25,000 listings 4 years later.
So when I first started, I came up with 10K on the Bay because somebody told me that the Anchor store for $300, you got 10,000 listings. And I was like, that is so cheap. You get to reach millions of customers for 3 cents a listing. That's like a no brainer. And obviously it was hard getting to this many listings, but it was much harder than I thought. And looking at the name was completely arbitrary, but I just put up a contest on Instagram. I was like, somebody help me with the names. This guy was like, why don't you be 10K on the Bay? So I put it up because you can't use eBay in your name because it's trademark.
Mhm.
So, it's a good play on words that actually worked out, and it's been in quite a journey.
So recently you just got to 10,000 live listings. I think you've tried more niches, more ways to do it than pretty much anybody who has started. That's something that I admire you a lot for trying a lot of things. Not all of them work, some of them work, but at least you try it, you investigate, and you learn as much about every single topic. I don't have that ability. I just focus narrowly on what works for me. I wish I had that bone, but I don't have that. So I know you've tried like everything in the book.
When I first started, the reseller communities were really salty. I was like, hey, I want to learn about this. And people were like, if you can't figure it out on your own, then go get a job. There's McDonald's is perfectly, he's ready to hire people. And I was just like, this is extremely unfriendly, but I'm going to try everything. I had FOMO in the beginning. I was like, I want to try private label on Amazon. I want to list all these used items. In fact, I didn't know you could sell used items on eBay when I started. I thought
Mm.
eBay was only vintage or new. And I was thinking to myself when I was watching, Rake and Profit and Reezy Resells, I didn't know you could sell used items. I was like, wow, I'm a moron. I was donating all this stuff in my life and people are reselling it after they get it at the thrift shop. So when I first joined, I went to the Goodwill outlet right from the start because someone recommended I go do that. So I went there to find cheap inventory. I went to Savers because people were like, go there. So I was selling puzzles. And I think this is important to understand. My first 2,000 listings on eBay, I listed on mobile only. I did not use my computer. I didn't know the fastest ways to list. I actually learned that the fastest way to list is on a computer from you back then. But in the beginning, since I know the people who sell the most things always end up making the most profit, because I've been in sales my whole life, I was like, I'll just try everything. So I remember my store had like 300 categories in it, puzzles. And then when I went to the Goodwill outlet, I actually got in trouble for this because I was like, you know, um, there were like people going crazy, like a feeding frenzy every time they brought out a new uh, tray of clothing. And that's where I came up with House Moms Eat First, because I was listening to Joe Rogan talk about stay-at-home moms. That's where I came up with that term. And I'm like, I am not pushing people out of the way to get stuff. There's got to be a different way to do this. So reached out to the manager. He's like, okay, this is what you can do. I'll teach you how to do it so you can skip all these mistakes. Buy 5 pallets of stuff because your car can fit one. Leave 4 pallets of stuff here and take home the 1 pallet that's good stuff. And I was like, man, that is good advice, but I don't know which one. I don't know what 20% of this stuff is good. So I took it all home. I made 5 trips, took all that stuff to my house.
Wow.
Um, I looked through all of that clothing. There was like thousands and thousands of clothing items. In the beginning, you can see it in the begin in my very first videos. You can see it all on the floor of the garage because I didn't know what to do with it, and it was unbelievably cheap. But of course, in the beginning, you learn about returns, you learn about quality control, you learn about brands. I didn't know anything about clothing, so went there, looked through all those goods, and then I got even more distracted because at the time was the beginning of the digital stuff. People were talking about YouTube, people were talking about courses. So I was like, you know what? I've read a lot of success books in my life, and they all say the same thing: get really good at one thing, and the money will take care of itself. So I did not do that. So I recommend for all the people who are listening and you just want to make as much money as possible, do not do what I did. What I did was the makes me an interesting person at the party, but it goes to this saying where simple is profitable and interesting. I'm sorry, simple is profitable, complicated is interesting. So what I did was interesting, but not profitable. I recommend you just pick one category. It doesn't matter what it is. Tech and I preach on this channel that everyday value is the way that you make the most money. It's not McDonald's makes a million times more money than a fine dining restaurant charging $1,000 a plate because only a few people can afford that, but everyone can afford $6 for their family on the weekend for a happy meal, right? Everyday value.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I mean, for me personally, that's what I'm able to find in source. If I was able to find $1,000 item at scale, like me in the direct able to do that. If I was $100 items at scale for an affordable price where I can make a good margin, like point me in the direction. But everything or most things that are donated at the thrift store, I think are a $30 margin because if someone knows that it's worth more than $30, maybe they hold on to it, maybe they try to sell it themselves, maybe they don't donate it. But I think anything and under is what most people are comfortable with donating. And I think it's like the press the sweet spot at go 530 you can scale that out, you can end up making a tremendous amount of money. And that's how I 5 into 30s a day, 5 into 30s and amount of money.
I agree with that. Finding large quantities of super high profitable items is not really a thing. If you look at the stores that do that, that's more of a boutique model. You can also be very successful at that. I remember I had this video in the beginning, and Craigslist Hunter, who's like an OG reseller, he hopped in the chat and he's like, "Bro, just do one at a time. Trust me from doing this for so many years. Do not do all these things at the same time. It does not work." So I agree with that. If you're looking to to get your income and replace your 9 to 5, just focus on one category. And if you're selling pre-owned goods, the margins are there. You just need to get into the right habits. So here's one thing that did work over time. I remember when I started my YouTube channel, my wife, then girlfriend, said just do YouTube for fun, because the people who make money on YouTube just do it for the longest. So just
Hmm.
start. Your videos are going to be horrible. Now that's fine, but just do it for a whole year. So I did that in the beginning. So this is interesting because at the time I've always liked teaching. I've always liked digital stuff. It's like I was building 3 houses at the same time, but I've been doing this entire time. I remember when I first started, I was charging for information right from the beginning. I was like, "Hey, I want to host calls." I've been doing since I started. I do these mastermind calls because I was in them before this. I was in groups talking to people. I learned a ton, and I'm like, you all you need to do is be collaborative, because what I learned from the reseller community when I started is that resellers are not that collaborative. They don't really work together. So, over the years, I've been able to throw an event. I feel like all the reseller influencers, I could ask them for a favor and they would just take care of me because I've been meeting all these people. I flew out to meet Jason T. Smith, who was an influencer in the beginning. This is interesting because there was a little bit of a strife between him and Vicky and Katie, who run a different YouTube channel. I met Vicky and Jason T. Smith at a bar like 2 weeks after I learned about thrifting. Hey guys, the rest of the podcast is actually on our private Patreon at patreon.com/the resellers podcast. $5 a month gets you unlimited access to our full episodes, which are about an hour each, sometimes a little bit longer, depending on what the topic is. And just allows us to run that without any ads. So we appreciate everyone's patronage. We also run a Facebook group where we help you build any size eBay business you want. We've done it all and we've seen it all. So whatever project you want to do, we will help you get to that level. So you can join that $35 a month Facebook group in the description below. We also have more one-on-one coaching done on a weekly basis for $99 a month if you want to join that tier as well. This is an awesome collaboration, and so far we have almost 100 members and it's going great. We're helping people out, and the main thing is just doing the work. So we appreciate you guys stopping by, and we'll see you guys on the next show. Take care.